To this now. So the ANC has condemned the use of the South African flag during a meeting between MK party leader Jacob Zuma and Moroccan Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita. The party says the move was reckless and is a violation of international diplomatic norms. It calls on the International Relations Department to seek an immediate explanation and an apology from Morocco. The ANC accuses Zuma of setting a dangerous precedent which threatens South Africa's sovereignty. Well, for more on this and other stories that have dominated the headlines over the past week, we are joined by veteran journalist and former Sunday Times editor, Mr. Matata Tsedu, joining us via video link. We also are with comm strategist and social commentator, Mr. Kondile Ketama, as well as political analyst, Professor Ntsigidelo Breakfast. Gentlemen, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think, Prof. Breakfast, I'll let you go first. Just your thoughts on when we see the former president Jacob Zuma in Morocco with the Moroccan foreign minister. Was this a step in the right direction, or did he make a misstep in that decision? I think let's start there.
Yes, he did. I must say that I'm taken aback by the turn of events. I didn't see this coming, given the fact that it has been common knowledge that Western Sahara was handed over to Morocco by Spain in 1975. And because of that, the ANC took a foreign policy posture to support the people of Western Sahara in opposition to the occupation of Morocco. Jacob Zuma, throughout the years, he has been propagating the same foreign policy standpoint of the ANC. So it's quite interesting that all of a sudden he has changed gear and now he does the exact opposite. In fact, I would argue and say even the AU supports the people of Western Sahara. So I don't understand what is the issue now. The only conclusion I can arrive at, even though this is not cast in stone, is that there must be some kind of economic exchange between former President Zuma and the people that he visited. I mean, what else can it be? Because he was there on behalf of his own political party. He was there advancing the agenda of his political party. That's the only conclusion that I can arrive at, even though it's not a conclusive.
Yeah. Mr. Tsedu, I'll let you come in now. What do you make of those images of the former president in Morocco? He goes on to say, this is, of course, the former president Jacob Zuma, we believe Africa must have peace and must be one. We thought we should raise those issues with our brothers here so that we are part of what we were dealing with earlier. So there's a sense that he perhaps did bring up the conversation around what happens in the Western Sahara a little bit, to some extent. I don't know if you think that was sufficient. And then, of course, the ANC's reaction, what you make of that? They're upset that the South African flag was used in this bilateral meeting.
Yeah, on the first issue around why he would have gone there, we go back to what Floyd Shivambu said when he left the MK. One of the reasons he gave was that this issue around Morocco arose, and there was money. So the real point is, how much did the MK party get to get them to do what they did now, which is really a serious turnaround on the issue of the Sahrawi Republic. As Prof was saying, this is a standing position of both the ANC and the South African government, even when Zuma was leading that government. So Floyd is the answer to that question. As on the issue of the flag, it is quite interesting that, having gone there as a representative of his party, he doesn't use that opportunity to market his own party by standing in front of his own flag. He instead stands in front of the South African flag with the Moroccan flag, not the flag of the party that rules Morocco. So the impression is then created that you have a state-to-state relationship on that podium, which is a fallacy. The ANC is right in saying what it is saying about his turnaround and also the use of the flag. But you see, Naledi, when the DA does its own press conferences at its headquarters,
Yes.
you see the DA flag and the South African flag, and the podium is created in such a way as to give an almost like stately, state presidential image. And maybe Zuma is taking cue from there, but the DA is doing it here at home and not outside the country.
Interesting perspective. Mr. Ketama, your thoughts on this? Mr. Zedu, they're saying it creates the impression of a state-to-state interaction on that podium.
No, I think I agree with Zedu that political contradictions arise when different aspects of political system or ideology conflict, Naledi. And in this regard, you can see in a way, the inconsistencies in terms of approach, because as Rema Tata says, JZ went there for his own business, for his own party, and so on. So these contradictions manifest in various forms. And especially on political parties, because it's true that you have to separate government business to political parties. And what Zuma did, I think there's a conflation here that he uses the flag here and the next thing he represents his own party. And I think it's something that has to be looked into. I don't know whether by state or by political parties themselves, where I don't know. But the state has to look into that and maybe pronounce itself. I agree. I heard the ANC SG talking earlier, condemning what Zuma was doing. And I think, in a way, anybody who is leading government wouldn't want to be distracted to the way in which things are beginning to unfold. But at the heart of it all, for me, it is the political contradictions that you see in the country and the fragmentation of politics, because now you have a whole lot of political parties with different views, with different approaches, and obviously for themselves, for them to gain mileage politically, these are the things that they will do. But something has to be done, because you can't have South Africa being, I don't want to say presented in this form, but there's got to be a decorum at some point, and that has to happen, Naledi.
You know, I wish we could sit with this one, but we've got so much to really go through, because, my goodness, what a week it's been for South African news and the rundowns. One of the big ones, of course, has been, I mean, really, for the past 2 weeks, it's been so difficult to run away from the discussion around Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the allegations that he's made and everything that's unfolded ever since then. But perhaps, Prof Breakfast, you can talk to us about what you make of the marches that we've started to see in support of Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in various parts of the country. If there is a temperature issue there that needs to be looked at. And then, of course, now you've got a bit of a battle that's going to play out in the Constitutional Court here between the MK Party and President Cyril Ramaphosa around the placement of Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave. Perhaps you can talk to me about the different ways that you think this is going to go in the weeks that follow, Prof.
Naledi, you are raising two issues at once.
Sure.
So I don't know which one is which.
Well, you start where you want.
Okay. With regard to the MK issue, I'm not a lawyer. However, I think that they are off the mark there, because they are fighting a losing battle. I'll tell you why. Because whether we agree with the president or not regarding putting the minister in question on special leave, but you can't challenge that. You're not talking about employment here. That minister is not employed. That minister was appointed by the president based on the a prerogative that he has. So if you disagree with that, you can't then take him to court and institute a legal action. That is so out of line. So in my opinion, I think they're just fighting a losing battle. There are other issues that you can institute legal actions on, but not on this one. So I can bet my bottom dollar, though I'm not a lawyer, but they're going to lose this one. Now, with regard to the other issue that you raised earlier on, pertaining to the social contract between us and them, by them I mean the powers that be.
Yes.
I think we as the public, we as ordinary citizens, we hold the highest office because we hire and we fire. So if politicians do not honor the commitments that they make to us, you know, in the build-up to the elections, therefore, in opposition to that, we have a right to take to the street, you know, and demand answers. I cannot confirm the validity of the claims which were made by General Mkhwanazi, but at the same time, I can confirm the brokenness of SAPS in terms of corruption and so on. So I think people are demanding some kind of accountability, because if people don't demand accountability, I can bet my bottom dollar corruption will flourish. So we as the public, we provide some kind of oversight.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, Mr. Zedu, I'll bring you in once again. At the same time, and you can respond to some of the issues that were raised with the Prof breakfast, but at the same time, you also have this happening. The incoming acting police minister, Professor Prof Kachalia, starting to share his views on how we deal with police shooting to kill, saying shoot to kill is not the answer, and you know, giving license to kill to police is not the way that the police force should be going. Again, this has been very much a big mark of the sort of leadership associated with General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I don't know if you think that there's a sign there of perhaps what it is that he would be doing as he takes over that position.
Everything has.
Oh, sorry. Apologies, Prof.
Sorry.
That's for Mr. Zedu. I know. Apologies.
No, it's fine.
I'll give you a shot later. Go ahead, Mr. Zedu.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to go back to the point where this shoot to kill thing came into vogue.
Yes.
This was a time when a lot of policemen were being killed for their guns, which were then later used in criminal activity. And the response politically from the political leadership at the time, it started with Steve Tshwete saying you must deal with them like a dog deals with a bone. And then Becky, Kele, and the shoot to kill statements. So that's where this comes from. Now, we've seen in KZN in particular where the part of General Mkhwanazi's team has been very effective in eliminating cash in transit heists and other things with tracking people and killing them in the houses. And a lot of questions have been raised about the methodology of doing that and whether that solves the problem and whether these are just extrajudicial executions. Now comes Professor Kachalia, eminent incumbent to the office of Minister of Police, and he's a very human rights-based person. He has been at the other end of police brutality. When he was a student, he was beaten up and all sorts of things done to him. So when he speaks, we have to understand where he's coming from. But I suspect that once he's in office and he has to go and visit a family of a police officer who's been shot dead on duty, his tone might change. But with regards to the marches, there are people who are going into the streets because they are genuinely wanting to support General Mkhwanazi in his posture at the moment because of the amount of criminality and corruption that is prevalent in the country. We have to understand that. But there are also political opportunists who are trying to ride on that wave. That's why even General Mkhwanazi himself has had to issue a statement to say, don't use my picture, don't use my name when you go out into these marches.
Yeah, you know, when we come back, perhaps we'll give Gondile the opportunity to also just respond to how government has gone about communicating what has happened as the after effects of the allegations made by General Mkhwanazi. I mean, this week we saw Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, holding a press briefing. Of course, issues of state security came up, and then even talk of the possibility of a coup that has been thwarted. We're going to talk about that and more on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition with myself, Naledi Moleo. And as we do every other Sunday evening, we look back on the 7-day that was and some of the top stories that stood out for us as well. We're taking your WhatsApps on 072-110-5584 or give us a call. That number is at the top there, 010-594-6010. Let's take a look at perhaps two WhatsApps that have come in from our viewers. Brian Williams says, the story for me was the MK Party's march across the country. I think we should all join the MK Party and stand boldly for what we believe is wrong in the country. Okay, Brian, thank you so much. Leon says, hi Naledi, I think we need to concentrate on all providers in South Africa. Every day you listen to news about KwaZulu residents. We are all South Africans. These citizens need to listen to government. My opinion, they are stubborn and fully dependent on government. They need to pull their socks up. The bulk of our budget goes to sorting out their petty issues. Okay, I'm not too sure what you're talking about there, but thank you for texting nonetheless, Leon. And maybe what he is talking about is even marches that we saw around Dudula, which we will get to later. But Gondile, I want to come to you. Mr. Ketama, just before the break there, we were talking about, you know, the way that the South African government has communicated around this issue of the allegations of Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and then at the same time, and I don't know if you can really put these things together, but at a time when we're so concerned around, you know, state security, what's happening within the police force, then you have the minister in the presidency talking about how intelligence has been able to thwart the possibility of a coup. What do you make of that?
Well, let me start with the coup statement, Naledi. For me, it was unfortunate statement. And I've tried to search around and check as to what could be the views of other people. But most experts would tell you that coup disclosure could harm the image of South Africa. It could make the communities and society generally to panic. So it was a bit unfortunate that that kind of a language is used in the public. Well, Minister Kumbutso was expressing what was the outcome of the security cluster meeting, risks that are involved and so. But I think that the issue of optics is very critical, and especially when you are into political space. Political space is sensitive, and whatever is the outcome of whatever meeting, one still has to be cautious of how the communities will receive the information that you dispatch as government. So for me, I want to agree with most of the people, including the experts in the security sector, who are saying the statement was a bit unfortunate, but I guess that is the nature of politics. As for Mkhwanazi, look, for me, I think the man has unleashed something that was not expected by the public. For an example, say whatever you want to say. There's a presser. 7 days later, the minister is put on precocious leave or whatever. There's an appointment of Prof Kachalia. So that, for me, tells that it was a very, very startling type of an exercise that was undertaken by Lieutenant. And most people will obviously, because it came at the time when the political environment is a bit fragile. And most people have started taking advantage of that, especially political parties. You can say that they are saying support. But obviously, even the president does admit that the crime levels in the country are very high. We saw that in the Oval Office. Yeah. He said it openly. So for me, it's something that the one that was done by Mkhwanazi, it's something that we're going to live with for the greater part of our time. Yeah.
What's interesting is you mentioned, the Oval Office in that meeting between President Ramaphosa and Trump. And one of the things that came up in that discussion in the Oval Office was crime levels in South Africa, but certainly also, and I think you'd remember even hearing, it might have been Johan Rupert who talked about the influx of foreign nationals in the country, illegal foreign nationals. And I want to actually bring this to you, Mr. Tsedu, because just as you look at the stories that we've been telling about South Africa's relationship with foreign nationals, it has gotten incredibly heated and dangerous at times. What we saw this week, though, was Operation Dudula outside healthcare facilities, blocking illegal foreign nationals from accessing healthcare facilities. And then there's the discussion around, well, the Constitution doesn't allow for that, and that quite the, infuriating debate for many. But what you think South Africa keeps saying about itself in how it deals with this issue?
Well, the reality with these matters is that South Africa took the position that insofar as it deals with external migration into the country, it is not going to create refugee camps. Or camps where people would be kept and processed like other countries do. The South African government chose the route of allowing people to settle within South African communities. That's what, when you vote for a party like the ANC, for example, that's what you're voting for, because that is what the government has decided it is going to do. Now, once you are in that space, these people then become part of the general South African citizenry. They are entitled to basic facilities like health in particular, which is the item that is on the table brought about by Dudula's marches. In Botswana, they have even reopened Dukwe, and they are putting Zimbabweans there at Dukwe camp. And once you are in there, the United Nations provides all the things that are needed: food, health, education, and what have you, through the UNHCR. We have decided to go in a different route, and we are paying that price. There may well be a need, whether it is through the national dialogue or other things, but there might well be a need to relook the manner in which South Africa has decided to deal with internal migration.
Yeah. Prof, Breakfast, do you want to give this one a stab? Let's not forget, next year we're going into local government elections. The issue of how we deal with foreign nationals in South Africa becomes quite the hot potato discussion with political parties.
Yes, Naledi, you're quite right. But my view is that we need to respect the culture of human rights, because human rights are not only limited to locals. Human rights come from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of the UN, and they embed themselves in the constitution of this country, Act 108 of 1996. But there are gaps, though. For instance, we need to address the issue of border management, because some of the foreign nationals which are here in our own backyard, they don't pay taxes, you know, and that is a bit unfair to locals, you know, but also I think there must be legislation that limit, you know, the involvement of foreign nationals in terms of small, micro, medium enterprise. I mean, if you go to townships, you find that locals are no longer owning spaza shops. So those sorts of issues, they need to be addressed. But in general, I am in support of human rights. Yeah, so long as a person can be accounted for, a person came here legally. I support that.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, let me just make this last point.
Sure.
I think there is a policy provision that indicates that people who need to be given a preference in terms of employment who are foreign nationals are those who possess scarce skills. I think that also must be noted.
Yeah, just perhaps one last issue before we start to move towards closing it off, really, about what we expect in the week that's coming. But if we look at what's happening with our neighbors, Eswatini making the headlines once again this week. Mr. Ketama, rather, let me say that. 5 hardened criminals from the US deported and sent to Eswatini. The people in Eswatini really concerned. Then, of course, you've got security analysts that saying these people might very well even become a South African problem. What do you make of that development?
For me, Naledi, the issue of Eswatini is problematic in a sense that you're having Americans actually outsourcing America's immigration problem to Africa. And for me, it's a matter of leadership. I think the head of the state in Eswatini has to wake up, because these people, when they come, especially the so-called superpowers, they are even buying you. They give you lots of money for you to accommodate these people out there. So the issue of immigration, it's a problem, because it's not only happening today. But remember, there are a number of countries in Africa where, I think Rwanda was one of them, where these so-called superpowers in Europe, they dump people there, they give you money, but they leave you as a country with a huge problem. For an example, Naledi, talking about pending local government elections. If you look at the municipalities, for an example, and look at the consumption, as an example, consumption of water, given the numbers of immigrants that we have,
yeah,
those people are consuming a lot of water. They are consuming massive electricity. Question is, are they paying? Are they registered? Are they part of the documentation of municipalities? Because as municipalities, there's a need for us to also break down the consumption of these services. And if we were to look at it and delve deeper, I don't know if Stats South Africa has the numbers. You'd find that a lot of services that are supposed to be going to registered, recognized individuals and citizens of the country are actually going somewhere else, and they cause issues when it comes to budgeting, because if they are not registered, what does that mean? It means when the municipalities are going out for their IDPs and politicians, local politicians make promises, they have to take into consideration this element, because otherwise it will be a miscalculation, because even if that budget comes, it would mean there is a gray area that is not taken care of, where you have people who are actually consuming without coming afore, and ultimately disservice people who are supposed to get these services.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for chatting to us, though, as we reflect on the 7 days that was. We appreciate you availing yourself on the Sunday evening. Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast is a political analyst. Mr. Matata Tsedu, the former editor of the Sunday Times, former chair of SANEF, and a veteran journalist. And, of course, Mr. Qondile Ketama, a comms strategist and a social commentator. We take a short break. We are back with more news on the other side of this.